Welcome to 321 study. This is strategic financial management. I'll be looking at bond valuation. Bond valuation. Like we've looked at what basically is a bond. Told you that a bond is a financial instrument which companies or governments use in raising finance. We also looked at the characteristics of a bond. Basically, we told you that a bond has a face value, a bond has coupon and coupon rates, and a bond has a maturity. So for every bond, you look out for the face value, you look out for the coupon rate, and the nominal value. Okay, we've also looked at major issues as regards bonds. And we said there are three major things when it comes to calculations on that bond. Not for you to forget. Number one is the market price of a bond. What basically is the market price of a bond? We said the market price of a bond is the present value, okay, the PV, of all cash flows associated with that bond. Now, what are the cash flows associated with the bond? Two basic things, the interest payments and the redemption value, okay, the interest payment and the redemption value. If you also recall in our discussion, we talked about a zero coupon bond. What did we say a zero coupon bond was? That means a bond that pays you no interest or gives you a large capital gain at the end. So that's the only time when you don't have interest. But generally, the present value of a bond or the present value of all cash flows associated with a bond is what is known as the market value. So if we're looking at the market value, we are simply getting the PV of all cash flows associated with the bond. Second thing you could be asked in a bond valuation question is the yield to maturity. That's YTM, the yield to maturity. We could call it yield to maturity, we could call it gross redemption yield, and someone who is used to cost of capital could call it cost of debt. Any name you call that will be right. So yield to maturity or gross redemption yield is the return that investors expect on a bond if the bond is held to maturity. There are three basic conditions for yield to maturity to stand. Number one, the investor must hold the bond to maturity. Number two, we said the returns on those bonds must be reinvested. Okay, and usually we expect to be reinvested at the break-even rate, which is the internal rate of return. And thirdly, the returns are gross returns. Take note, when you're calculating anything on a bond, you don't net cost, you don't net tax. That's where bond valuation differs from cost of capital. So it's the gross return, no netting of anything. So the second thing you could be asked is yield to maturity. I said there are three basic calculations. One, the market price. Two, the yield to maturity. And what's the last one? Duration of a bond. What is duration? We said duration could be seen like payback period of a bond. How long, how many years will it take a bond to pay back the present value of that bond? Now, when looking at duration, we try to look at it from 2 points of view. And that's why most of the time, the Macaulay duration is differentiated from the modified duration. What is Macaulay duration? Macaulay duration looks at the duration of a bond as regards payback period. How many years will it take a bond to pay back its present value? Now, when we talk about modified duration, we are not looking at it in percentage terms. We are saying, what is the sensitivity? By how many percent will the price of a bond change if there is an expectation of interest rate changes? So it's looking at the sensitivity of a bond price to changes in the interest rate. So duration looks at two things. Macaulay duration looks at the payback period. Modified duration looks at the sensitivity of the bond to changes in interest rate. And when you want to calculate Macaulay duration, we said it should simply be the weighted present value over the present value of cash inflows associated with the bond. But when you're looking at modified duration, it's usually looked at from change in the price of the bond as a result of change in the interest rate. Better still, it could just be your Macaulay duration divided by 1 plus the yield to maturity. So those are the three basic things, that calculations you could get from bond valuation. And the question we're about to look at now is going to address those three issues, from point of view of two different bonds. And funny enough, it's one of the past questions of ICAN. So you listen very well. I believe that at the end of this class, you should not have any issue with any normal question as regards bond valuation. Now, where bond valuation becomes tricky, it's like the question we saw, tall talk, where the examiner was asking the bond valuation from a walk-back point of view, where you are not giving the risk-free rate. So let's look at this question on Kenan Cole and help explain these three concepts we've talked about. Kenan Cole, illustration on bond valuation. Now the examiner says Kenan Cole has a cash surplus of $1 million. Okay. Now with the financial manager, Kenan Cole is our focus company here. They have $1 million. Now the financial manager of Kenan Cole is keen to invest in corporate bonds. He has been able to identify two potential opportunities, okay, in two different companies. Now, key thing here, the both bonds are rated A. Remember, we talked about credit rating. Credit rating is the quality of a bond based on the probability of default, meaning that the rating agencies will always rank a bond on the basis of it defaulting. For you to rank A, it means your probability of default is very small. So the credit rating agencies have rated the two bonds A rating. Let's go ahead. Now we are told that ABCO, this is option 1, they have two investment opportunities. This is option 1. ABCO has $100 million of bonds. Now I need to say something. Our focus company is Kenan. They are the ones that have 1 million they want to invest. For all we care, ABCO could have 1 billion bonds. That does not change the focus. We have 1 million. We're looking for a company where we can invest our 1 million. So even if I change this ABCO to 1 billion, to 100 billion, it does not in any way affect my solution. So it's actually irrelevant. It can only be relevant where if I change this now to something below 1 million, then it means that I will be able to advise the organization that though you have 1 million, this company is only issuing something below 1 million. But aside that, this $100 million bonds owned by ABCO is irrelevant to the question. Irrelevant to the question. Okay, a lot of people want, the examiners are aware that you like figures and you want to put all figures into the question you are computing. So please note, the number of bonds or the amount of bonds the company, issuing company has is irrelevant as long as it can accommodate what I want to invest. So our focus company here is Kenan Co. Kenan Co has 1 million. So if ABCO, as long as they have more than 1 million, we are not concerned with any other information as regards that. Okay, so ABCO has $100 million of bonds already in issue. It says the bonds carry a coupon rate of 5% per annum. Okay, so there's an interest rate of 5% per annum. And the financial press is reporting that the bonds have a bid yield. So they've given us the yield on the bond being 6.2% per annum. The bonds are redeemable at a 10% premium to the nominal value. The bonds are redeemable at a 10% premium to the nominal value. In how many years' time? 4 years' time. Now, whenever you're calculating market price of a bond or yield to maturity, there are some basic things you need. But we're going to come back to that. Let's rush through this question. Don't forget the format. We always say if you're solving a question, read the requirement first. So that template was not followed here because I wanted you to see the body of the question. So let's go ahead with our procedure. Now, option 2, that's the second option they have. It's an XY Co. This is the issuer. XY Co is about to issue $50 million. Don't forget what I said. What you are issuing is irrelevant to us as long as it accommodates what we want to invest. Okay, so XY Co is about to issue $50 million of 3-year bonds. So their own bond will last for 3 years. And they have a coupon rate of 4% per annum. Okay, now these bonds will be redeemable at par in 3 years. These bonds will be redeemable at par in 3 years. The examiner says the annual spot yield curve for government bond for 1 year is 3.54. So this is your risk-free rate. Don't forget, any return on government bond is your risk-free rate. So this is your spot yield curve, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. Now, examiner says extracts from a major credit rating agency. Don't forget also, your spread is always in basis points. Remember, we said 100 basis points is equivalent to 1%. So the examiner has given us this. Now, what's the illustration? He says calculate the theoretical market value. Okay, that's the market price based on theory of a $100 bond. This is the nominal value in ABCO. So he wants us to calculate the market price of ABCO bonds. And he also wants us to calculate the theoretical issue price of a $100 bond in XYCO. That's the first focus, calculating the market price of both bonds, okay, of both the ABCO bond and the XYCO bond. He said we should not stop them. We should also determine how many bonds Kenan Co will be able to buy with their 1 million. Now, the number of bonds you can buy is dependent on what the market price is. For instance, using Naira, if I have 100 Naira and each bond is 10 Naira, for sure the number of bonds I can buy will be 100 Naira divided by 10 Naira, which is 10 bonds. So here, if I have 1 million, once I know the market price of the bonds, I can determine how many bonds I can get. So that's the A. Now, the B says estimate the Macaulay duration of the bond. Both bonds, both the ABKO bond and the XY bond, and interpret your result for 8 marks. Okay? Estimate the Macaulay duration of the ABKO bond and the XYCO bond. So now once you're solving a question and you see that the duration is given together with the market price, you will need to use a mass attack approach whereby you bring all the issues into your computation. Now, C part of the question says among the criteria used by credit rating agencies. This is a discussion aspect of the question. Okay, so let's focus on the calculations first. What are we supposed to do? 1, get the market price of the bond. 2, get how many bonds they can buy. And 3, determine the Macaulay duration. We'll take the bonds one by each, meaning we'll take option 1 first, treat this question, then take option 2 for understanding. Okay, so I'll go to my solution kit and I'll say solution, option 1 bond. Now, when I want to calculate the market price of a bond, what are the things I'm supposed to look for? I'm supposed to look for, the first thing I'm supposed to look for is the number of years. The second thing I'm supposed to look for is the coupon, that's the interest rate. Okay. The third thing I'm supposed to look for, after having the number of years and the coupon, the third thing I'm supposed to look out for, will be the redemption value. Now, once I have my redemption value, then automatically I can look for the yield on the bond. Once these 4 things are given, question solved. That bond question is already a settled matter. The number of years the bond will last, the coupon, that means the interest rate on the bond, the redemption value, how much are they paying me back? Is it at premium? Is it at par? Is it at discount? Then yield, which is like the cost of debt, the discount. So let's look at option 1 bond and see if all these things are given. Okay? So I'll start. Option 1 bond. Examiner says, ABCO has $100 million of bonds already in issue. The bonds carry a coupon rate of how many percent? 5% per annum. And it says, so 5% per annum. Coupon is 5%. So let's go to our solution kit. And we'll say coupon 5%. Let's move on now. What else? What other information is given? He says, and the financial press is reporting that the bonds have a bid yield of 6.2% per annum. Bid yield of 6.2%. So they've given me the yield. So my yield is 6.2% per annum. Okay. What else do we need? We'll check again from the question. So you're looking for all the things, 4 things. I've been able to get coupon. I've been able to get yield. What's the next issue? They say the bonds are redeemable at a 10% premium to the nominal value in 4 years' time. So I know how many years this bond is supposed to last. This bond is supposed to last for 4 years. Okay. And the redemption value, we are told that it's at 10% premium to the nominal. Now your nominal is $100. 10% premium means 10% higher than the nominal value. So you just multiply it by 1.10, which gives me 110. So these 4 things, once given to you, it's a bonus question. So what do I do now? To get my market price, I'll bring up my table. I have year here first. Okay, let's assume I have cash flows here. The cash flows here. I have my discount factor at 6.2%. I have my PV. Don't forget we said the market price is the present value of all cash flows associated with this bond. So I'll start here. This bond has 4 years. Year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. In year 1 of every bond, you are paid interest. Year 2, interest. Year 3, interest. In the 4th year of the bond, you'll be paid 2 things. You would have received the interest during the year, and then at the end of the year, you receive the redemption value. So there are 2 things they pay to you at the end of the maturity of the bond. Now, interest here is 5% times the nominal. The nominal is 100, so our interest is $5. So that means in year 1, I'm receiving 5, year 2, 5, year 3, 5. Now in year 4, the interest is 5, the redemption value is 110, don't forget. So that means in year 5, I'm actually receiving 115. Okay? I'm receiving 115. Now let's get the discount factor. Discount factor at 6.2% year 1. You go to your table, discount factor 6.2% year 1 is 0.9416. Year 2 is 0.8866. Discount factor year 3 at 6.2% is 0.8348, and year 4 is 0.7861. Okay, hope we're together. We're looking at present value. We have the interest from year 1 to year 4. We have the cash flows as calculated and the discount factor. Now is to get the PV. How do I get the PV? To be the cash flow here multiplied by the discount factor. So can you join me? 5 times 0.9416. Okay, that gives me 4.71. 5 times 0.8866. That gives me 4.43. 5 times 0.8348. That will give me 4.17. And 5 times 115 now times 0.7861. That gives me 90.41. Can we sum up this together? So the summation of 4.71 plus 4.43 plus 4.17 plus 90.41. That gives me approximately 103.72. This is my market price. Let's look at this again. How do I get my market price? The market price is the present value of all cash flows. What are all cash flows? The interests and the redemption value in the final year. The interest and the redemption value in the final year. So all interest, if it's 10 years, you receive interest for the 10 years. Then in the final year, at the end of the year, they will pay you your redemption value. So this is how you compute your present value, market price of a bond. So how many things am I looking for? 4 things. Whenever I'm doing market price, I'm looking for 4 things. The coupon. Okay. You're given the coupon, the number of years. You're looking for the redemption value, and you're also looking for the yield where it is given. Okay. So examiner says also how many bonds can they buy? Now, like I told you, the number of bonds, they have 1 million. So the number of bonds will be the amount they have divided by the market price. So if a company is selling their bond for 103.72 and you have 1 million, so that will be 1 million divided by 103.72. So help me out. How many bonds can they buy? So I'll do 1 million divided by 103.72. So they can buy approximately 9,641 bonds. So this is how you get the number of bonds, the amount you have divided by the market price of the bond. So if they're buying option 1 bond, they can buy 9,641 bonds. The examiner says we should calculate Macaulay duration. What do I do? Macaulay duration. I will quickly remember Macaulay duration is the weighted present value over the present value. That means the weighted value over the market price. That's what it means. So what do? I'll bring in weight here. Now you don't necessarily have to bring weight here. You could use the year, but just to make it easy, I'll bring in weight here. Weight 1, weight 2, weight 3, weight 4. So the weight corresponds with the year. Year 1 is weight 1, year 2 is weight 2, and like that. Now I'll get my weighted PV. How do we compute weighted PV? Weighted PV is your PV times the weight. So 4.7 times 1 will be 4.71. 4.43 times 2 will be 8.86. 4.17 times 3 will be 12.51. And let's punch for the 4th one. So 115. So we have 90.41 multiplied by 4. So we have 361.64. So let's sum up our weighted value. That will be plus 12.51 plus 8.86 plus 4.71. So in total, we have 387.72. So to get my duration will be the weighted PV over the PV of my inflows. So that will be 387.72 all over 103.72. So 387.72 divided by 103. So that's approximately 3.74 years. So with that, we're done with the option 1 bond. Okay? So when you ask to calculate the market price of a bond, 4 things: the number of years, the coupon, the redemption value, and the yield. The only time the question becomes uncommon is if the examiner refuses to give you one of these 4 items I've mentioned. I'll go through them again: number of years, the coupon, the redemption value, and the yield. Now let's look at option 2 before we comment. Now option 2 bond, we are looking at for 4 things again, so I'll write it out again. I'm looking at for number of years, I'm looking at for coupon, I'm looking at for redemption value, and I'm looking at for the yield. So I will ask the examiner now, examiner, can I have some more items? So what are we asking the examiner in option 2? So let's go to option 2. Now see option 2. The examiner says ESCO is about to issue $50 million bond. Irrelevant. For how many years? 3 years. That's relevant to us. So let's come here. Under our number of years, this answers the question. Number of years is 3 years. Okay. So let's now look at the coupon. Coupon. The coupon here, the examiner says with a coupon of 4% per annum. Don't forget, coupon is just a terminology for interest. So I'll come here, coupon is 4%. And should be 4% of the nominal. So what do you say? How do you know the nominal? If the examiner is silent, your nominal is 100. But look here, the examiner told us in the requirements. Look at this. It says a $100 bond as the nominal price. Okay? So let's move on now. What else can we get from bond 2? It says the bond will be redeemable at par. Par, don't forget, is the same thing as the face value and the nominal value. So that means the redemption value is at 100. The redemption value is at par, which is $100. So the last man standing is the yield. So let's check if the examiner gave us the yield. Now, the moment you get there, the examiner says the annual spot yield curve. So the yield is not given. Whenever the yield is not given, the yield can be calculated depending on the kind of bond. So if you are given the risk-free rate, the yield of the bond will be risk-free rate plus the spread based on the rating. You notice that in the A part, in the first question, I used the same table to solve both the market price and the duration. So in the exam, you don't need to use 3 different tables because that will waste your time and occupy more space, So you could use the same table to sort that out. So that's what I'm going to do here, but I cannot start here until I sort the issue of the yield. How do I sort the yield? So I'll come here and say year. Year 1, year 2, year 3. And I'll come here and say risk-free rate plus spread. Okay, so what's my risk-free rate? We'll check. The risk-free rate for year 1 is 3.54. For year 2 is 4.01. For year 3 is 4.7. And for year 4 is 5.6. So let's take it there. So we have year 1. This is your risk-free rate. Anything that belongs to government bond is your risk-free rate. Okay. Sorry, 5.6 year 4. Now, how do I get my spread? When you want to get your spread, remember spread is the premium attached to a bond based on its credit rating. Don't forget in paragraph 1, we are told that these bonds are A-rated in the first paragraph. Now, these bonds are A-rated. So how do I sort A-rated bonds? So let's go. I'll check from the table given to me and pick A-rated bond. This is it. What can you see there? Year 1 is 26 basis points. Remember, all spread are in basis points. So how do I convert basis point to percentage? All you need to do is to divide it by 100. If 100 basis point is 1%, then 26 basis points will be 0.26%, something like this. Collecting like terms. So that will be 26 times 1% over 100. So this is 0.26%. So all you need to do is just divide this figure by 100, and that gives you the percentage. So it means that year 1 will be 0.26%, year 2 will be 0.39. Year 3 will be 0.5. And year 4 will be 0.6. So, can we have our yield? So we'll sum up. To get our yield. So year 1 will be 3.54 plus 0.26. What do we have? That's 3.8. Year 2, we add up 4.01 plus 0.39. That gives us 4.4. Year 3, 5.2. And year 4 is 6.2. Okay, so this is your yield. So what do you do? Same thing. You use the same table. Have your year. This is year. This bond has 3 years. Cash flow. Year 1 will be interest. Year 2 will be interest. Year 3 will be interest plus redemption value. What's our interest? Our interest is 4. Interest in year 2 is 4. But in year 3 will be 4 plus 100. Remember, the interest is 4 and the redemption value is 100. So it will be 4 plus 100. That's 104. Okay. So now, when you have different yields using the government yield bond, it means that in year 1, discount factor will be at this year 1, 3.8% in year 1. For year 2, discount factor will be at 4.4% year 2. Then for year 3, discount factor will be at 5.2% year 3. So if there was a year 4, 6.2, and like that. So let's see, what is 3.8% year 1? So 3.8% year 1 gives us 0.9634. 4.4% year 2 gives us 0.9175. Very key that these figures are correct. Remember, if one goes wrong, everything goes wrong. So I'm taking, okay. Year 3, 5.2% at year 3 gives me 0.8589. So with this now, I can get my PV. How did we say we get our PV? PV will be cash flow times the discount factor. So 4 times 0.9634, that gives me 3.85 year 1. Year 2, 4 times 0.917, that gives me 3.67. And year 3, 104 times 0.8589. So I'm multiplying this with this, this with this. Now 104 times 0.8589, that gives me 89.33. Okay, so let's sum up. If you sum this up, that's giving me approximately 96.85. This is my market price. What's the difference between these two questions or these two bonds? In the first bond, we had the yield, so we walked straight. In the second bond, they didn't give us the yield, they gave us the government's bonds risk-free rate. So when you are giving the government bonds risk-free rate, you need to add it to the spread to get your yield. And that means you have different yields for each year. Now, before doing duration, under basic concepts, they expect you to convert, first and foremost, use the market price to determine the internal rate of return, but that will be a lot of time in the exam hall. So I would advise you go straight because the difference will not be much. So instead of wasting time now and trying to use this market price to determine internal rate of return, I will move ahead with the question. Number of bonds. Number of bonds will be 1 million divided by 96.85. 1 million is the amount Kenan has, 96.85 is the market price. So how many bonds can we get? So 1 million divided by 96.85. So that's approximately 10,325 bonds. So we've been able to sort the market price of the bond and the number of bonds. So what next comes to play? Now that we have the market price of the bonds and the number of bonds, duration. So to get my duration, I'll simply bring weight here, weight 1, weight 2, weight 3. And I have my weighted PV. So this is 3.85, 3.67 times 2. So don't forget to get a weighted PV is actually weight times the PV. So this is what I'm multiplying, this times this. So 3.67 times 2 gives me 7.34. Then 89.33 times 3. So 89.33. That gives me 267.99. So if I sum up, plus 7.34 plus 3.85, that gives me 279.18. So that means to get my duration is weighted PV over PV, which is 279.18 over 96.85. That's roughly 2.88 years. With that, in a good time, you're done with the question. With that, in good time, you're done with the question. So what's the key thing here? Whenever you're solving market price, look out for 4 things. 1, the number of years. 2, the redemption value. 3, the coupon. And the last one is the yield. Where the yield is not given, they'll give you the risk-free rate. So you sum the risk-free rate and the credit spread. Okay? And where the risk-free rate is not given, like in Talk, you work back to get that. Now, the bond with a shorter duration is assumed to be less sensitive, less risky. So in this question, the company will go for option 2 because it gives them a shorter duration and they're able to buy more bonds dependent on what the likely risk is. And that's all for bond valuation question. I hope with this, any question you see on bond valuation, don't forget, you look out for those 4 things. And when you're doing duration, it is simply present value times weight to give you your weighted PV. So with this, we've come to the end of bond valuation.